Welcome back to the Pod Shed, home of the Truck Show podcast. I'm your host, Holman, and I'm excited to get to all of the great stuff we have for you on this episode of the Truck Show podcast. This one will probably be a bit long because we have my friend Nick Psomas from Peak Suspension in to talk about his company and all the changes that have happened since he was last on the show. And since he's the other biggest Dr. Pepper fan I know, there might be a fun bonus at the end of our show highlighting our Dr. Pepper blind taste test to determine once and for all which Dr. Pepper flavor is king and which Dr. Pepper lover has the best palate. Also on the show, we finally get to my initial review and impression of the refreshed 25 Ram Heavy Duty with the upgraded Cummins 6.7-liter turbo diesel and 8-speed ZF automatic transmission. I get to drive 3 different trucks, actually 4, but I didn't do a review on all of them. So drive 3 different trucks, each with a different trailer attached and different load on them to give you my thoughts while we're driving, as well as have a great conversation with Ram's Doug Killian, who is the Chief Vehicle Synthesis Manager. But before we get to all of that, we need to thank the companies that keep the Truck Show podcast going, starting with Nissan, our presenting sponsor. And this one's a little bit bittersweet. Nissan has been supporting this show for the last something like 6.5 years. And you guys have bought a ton of Nissan vehicles, both new and used. Nissan's been an amazing partner. They've never once told me what I can and can't say on the show. All they ever wanted was to be in the same conversation with truck people. And you guys have supported Nissan in the same way that Nissan has supported the show, and I thank you for that. If you're in the market for a midsize truck, head on over to nissanusa.com. Check out the new Frontier. It's such a fantastic midsize truck. It is an honest pickup. It has the tech you need. It doesn't have a lot of stuff that you don't need. This year is going to be a big year for Nissan trucks, so while we may not have the exact same relationship going forward that we do today, know that I'm a huge fan of Nissan, a huge supporter of my friends over there, a believer in the brand, and you guys are going to be stoked with some things coming out later this year, and we will absolutely cover those things on the Truck Show podcast. So whether it's a midsize pickup truck or even the full-size SUV, you got to go check out the new Armada Pro 4X. We got some content on that coming up in a upcoming episode with me and Emmy and all the craziness that ensues when you put the two of us in a vehicle together. But anyway, I just wanted to say thank you, Nissan. Please continue to support them, nissanusa.com. And of course, we've got our friends over at AMSOIL who started the synthetic category back in 1972. And AMSOIL continues to innovate. They have such a wide selection of synthetics. They're formulated, blended, packaged right here in the U.S. They're specialized lubricants. They are engineered for what you drive and how you drive. The AMSOIL catalog includes so much stuff: truck and passenger car oils, formulations that are specific to high mileage, hybrid, diesel, even the industry-leading Signature Series. They've got coverage for ATVs, UTVs, small engines. Did you know they've got cleaner and oil for your gun? I actually use AMSOIL on my firearms. So whatever you need, they've got you. Even car care products. You can go to AMSOIL.com and you can shop by vehicle. It'll help you select the right motor oil for your application, as well as give you package size recommendations to maximize savings, including AMSOIL's Ultimate Oil Change Kits. You get everything you need coming to your door in one box that includes the oil, the filter, gloves, funnel, even a reminder sticker. AMSOIL offers the protection you demand and the performance you deserve. Get yours today at AMSOIL.com. And you need a knife. I know you do. Or your knife is all dull from cutting open cardboard boxes and all that kind of stuff. Go to Kershaw and get yourself a Kershaw knife. That's kershaw.kiusa.com. All Kershaw knives come with a limited lifetime warranty. Repair parts such as pocket clips, screws, springs are available through the website. Kershaw knives also include a lifetime sharpening, and the lineup has everything you need, EDC, all the way up to really high-end knives. Thanks to our generous partnership with Kershaw Knives, the Truck Show podcast listener can get 40% off MSRP and free shipping over $50 by using our new code. The code has changed, 2540 TSP now going forward. At checkout, it can be used more than once, includes automatics. Please support the Truck Show podcast and treat yourself to a Kershaw knife today. And when it comes to amazing vehicle-based adventure content, how-tos, great storytelling, only one brand's doing it right in the print magazine space, and that's OVR, Outdoor Vehicle Recreation. OVR is about getting out there in our vehicles to explore and discover the world around us. Get complimentary access for a year to the digital library or a discount on your print subscription today at OVRmag.com and use the promotional code at Truck Show Podcast. The Truck Show Podcast survives off of sponsorships and your reviews. Please help me to keep it free by supporting our sponsors and leaving reviews and comments on Apple Podcasts or Spotify.
The Truck Show. We're gonna show you what we know. We're gonna answer what the truck. 'Cause truck rhymes with the truck show. We have the lifted, we have the lowered, and everything in between. We'll talk about trucks that run on diesel, electricity, and on gasoline. The truck show, the truck show, the truck show. Oh, oh.
It's the Truck Show with your host, Holman.
That's right. That's me, Holman, sitting by myself in the pod shed. But fortunately, this whole episode isn't just me because I had my friend Nick Psomas, and we're going to welcome him back in studio. Nick Psomas from Peak Suspension. We've had him on before, and he's got a shop, and they do a bunch of installs, make a bunch of parts, and all sorts of stuff in the suspension space. He's got some news. His business has evolved. I think he originally came on as an entrepreneur, and we'll talk about where Peak Suspension has been and where it's gone in the last few years. So let's hear from our friend Nick Psomas. What's up, Nick Psomas from Peak Suspension, who's visiting the pod shed for the very first time.
Yeah, the last time I saw it was just the wood, actually.
It was just a structure?
Actually, no, the first time was just the pad of
Oh,
concrete.
yeah, because last time you came here, you were dressed as Santa Claus.
That's correct.
Yeah, because you miss the barbecue every summer, because somehow it's during your
You
same
pick
trip
it
every
during
year.
our vacation every year intentionally, because you want me knowing that your brisket sucks.
No, your brisket sucks. we're going to have a brisket off at some point.
Not during that time period, though.
All right, well, before we get started, why don't we pull up a stool with my friend Nick?
Pull up a stool and share. Pull up a stool and share a story. Pull up a stool and share. How about you pull up a stool and share with us?
So, Nick, what brings you to Huntington Beach from the land of the dirt people in Riverside, which is like so this is the thing about California, is if you live in Southern California, you don't talk about how many miles something is, you talk about time. Because you're only about 40 miles from me, and you're probably about 2.5 hours in traffic.
Well, yeah, it depends. So,
at midnight, you're only about 45 minutes away.
I was going to say, it's 35, 40 minutes on a normal day, but we have Fast Track, thankfully. So
yeah.
we booked it. We went to the club this afternoon, hung out there for a little while until I was called here.
I haven't been to the club to smoke a cigar in over a week. Dude, my last, I don't know when this will air, but I've been in Vegas for the Mint. I've been in Washington, D.C. talking to Congress. I went out to Scottsdale with Nissan. I go to Bakersfield tomorrow to deliver dog food. I mean, dude, it's insane. That's a whole other story. So, it's insanity. And I'm jonesing for a stick right now. I haven't had a good evening Dr. Pepper with a cigar in a while.
I know a place I can go right after this.
Yeah, well, my wife she's flying home. So, I mean, if we get this done quick and she gets home quick, then we go spend the last hour.
Hi, bye.
Yeah. Hey, nice to see you. Welcome home. All right. I have this. What is this that you gave me here?
It's called a birthday present for those who are listening.
You a birthday present?
It was this week.
I was. Well, it was a week ago, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
it was one of those things where my wife's like, "What do you want to do for your birthday?" And I'm like, "What?" I had no idea. It's kind of depressing.
45 now?
47. I know, it sucks. Yeah, this is where the doctor sticks their finger up your butt.
Yeah, well, that was earlier.
And you get the big scope and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, I can go do that soon. I got a happy birthday balloon. I'm guessing this was from Kim and not you. She added the balloon?
Yeah. I'm not going to
because that would be a little bit weird if you were giving me star-shaped
packed
balloons.
the whole thing. And truth be told, that was a recycled balloon anyways from my birthday last month.
Well, she's a keeper. All right, what do we have? Oh, nice. You got some Stubbs Dr. Pepper.
Always.
This actually might go well with the theme. So, in case you guys don't know, well, you guys all know that I love Dr. Pepper. We have a Dr. Pepper fridge. The only person I know that is on the same level of Dr. Pepper the only person I know that's on the same level of Dr. Pepper enthusiast as me is Nick. So, I've got a surprise for you, but appreciate the Stubbs Dr. Pepper.
It's good on ribs. Oh, really good on ribs.
And Dr. Pepper socks. Dude, you want to see something funny?
It matches the Dr. Pepper underwear I'm wearing right now.
Hold on. Check this out. I'm going to show you on my Amazon. No lie. You know how you have the save for later?
Yeah. Don't tell me it's the socks.
What do you see on my Amazon save for later?
Well, I have
I know. And I'm so glad I didn't buy them.
That's
that was
cool.
one of those things I'm like, should I just do that for myself?
Yes. Well, it's your own birthday present.
Awesome. And a Dr. Pepper hat.
Oh, yeah.
This is the old logo, too. Which
It's the classic.
That's the best
That's the
one.
one's on the side of the building in Waco.
So, Emmy Hall will be listening to this, and Emmy will say, "No, I love Dr." No, she likes Diet Dr Pepper.
Yeah.
And her and I got into it, and I said, they don't have a Diet Dr Pepper museum in Waco. It doesn't say Diet anywhere, so she's not the same as us. So she can't take credit. Well, I appreciate this.
You're welcome.
This is awesome. This dovetails very nicely into what's to come, which I haven't fully filled you in, on yet, but I will. So. Man, it's been a while. You've been on the show a couple times. We talked about the Overland Expo build that you did. It was probably the last time when I was out at the shop in Riverside. And then you've been on the phone before talking about Peak. But a lot's happened since the last time you came on. I mean...
I was trying to think of the first time. I think it was 3 years now.
And that was probably, a year and a half into your own? Something like that?
Not even, but yeah.
Yeah. You started the business. You had a business partner. You ended up buying out the business partner. Went on your own, hooked up with basically an investor, but with another company that is well respected within the industry. That's kind of helped take a little bit of the administrative burden off your shoulders and allowed you to do what you love, which is innovating in product. And then let's talk about where Peak is today and what you're working on.
The whole partnership thing. It's not really a secret. We partner with CBI and Prinsu.
Yeah,
it was truthfully an accident and a good one at that. Because as you know, I'm an AEV fanboy.
Yeah,
and so. My goal,
as am I.
Well, as you are. And my goal at the company was to be able to do not just suspension manufacturing and build, but I want to do full turnkey truck builds.
Yeah.
When CBI approached us about the merger, I was like, okay, well, thinking about it out loud, we can have in-house roof racks, armor, skid plates, sliders, bumpers, and then us doing suspension, wheels, tires. We could essentially do our own full truck builds in-house as under basically the house brand, so to speak. I having to reach out to third-party stuff. So, my whole goal the last 3 years has been just to offset what we're buying third-party and focus fully on ourselves. And it was a risk because when I first started this company, it was, we had one product and we had a lot of third-party stuff we were just reselling. And I didn't want to be a reseller. I wanted to be our own brand. And so being with CBI has been able to have more of a impact at a faster rate. So now we can be able to spend the money on in-house manufacturing, spend the money on equipment, spend the money on people, and then we've got a whole entirely. I mean, I advertised it the first time on the show was we're doing 2.5-inch coilovers. Now we have them for 9 different vehicle applications. So within 3 years, you're able to go from just a regular 2-inch shock for Colorado to having 2.5-inch race stock coilovers.
You basically cut your teeth. And got big with the ZR2 community, right? So the original ZR2 with the Multimatics, we all know that the deficiency on that wasn't the shocks, it was the amount of travel and the kind of lift height, and they only came with 31s from the factory. So they were kind of a rabid group that were like, our truck is almost there, and you started building, I guess, lift block spacers and stuff?
We did top spacers. We also did coilover conversions where we would take a threaded adjuster and basically rebuild the top half of the shock to make it an adjustable coilover. The benefit to that also was that we can do spring rates that were inducive to a different engine type. So they have the diesel, the gas, and then any
plus
bumper
winch and bumpers and lights and stuff.
And the ZR2 suspension geometry is already weird. And so whenever you do any kind of modifications, it definitely has a negative effect to whatever the truck was designed for. The valving on the DSSVs, the lift heights, everything was specific to the truck as it sits.
Well, the DSSVs, everything on that shock was kind of relatable to a zone, right? And so the reality is there's a certain ride zone that is kind of zero or neutral, and when you lift it, you get less travel in one direction, more travel in the other. But because the shock thinks it's beyond kind of that middle zone that the engineers designed for good ride going down the road, it felt like it's in this other zone that affects the ride and handling because the shock is in a stiffer, more performance-oriented zone rather than kind of the cushy middle.
Right. And that's one of the reasons why the two-piece kits we made work well is because you're lifting a spacer above the shock, which is going to push the entire shock assembly down, and then a spring seat adapter or a threaded adjuster to bring the spring seat position up. So in a way you're lifting it still in almost a neutral position. We did find that the position-sensitive dampers were not as sensitive as we originally had thought. So the ride quality was still good if you had the right spring. The problem was the internet. And
as it usually is.
Yeah. I mean, we can put FAQs all over the website. We can, we're very easy to reach. We've got all kinds of ways to reach out to us. We have FAQs on the site. We have rule of thumbs on what to use. But for some reason, Joe Blow on some forum knows more than us and says that you need to run this particular spring rate on this particular application. And then users do that because obviously Joe Blow knows more than the guys who made the kit. And
Right.
then they complain to us on why does this
Or
run
the
like
ones
crap?
that have sold them or installed them on hundreds of vehicles.
Right, which is one, usually. Their own.
Yeah, right.
So yeah, it was always that navigation of where we fit in. But then, I mean, my goal was always to invest in ourselves. I branded this company and built the brand before we ever had a product. And so it's been cool because we've been able to grow substantially on investing in our own products. And so we're month after month, year after year, increasing in sales volume, selling just our stuff. So taking away all the things we were relying on before is now fully invested in ourselves. And we're probably where we were before, probably 30% in-house, 70% aftermarket, like third party. Now we're 90%, if not more, our own brand and 10% third party.
Well, every time I go there, you guys are either doing an install or you're doing a test fit on something.
Yeah.
I think I saw, I've seen Toyotas in there. I've seen Nissan Frontiers in there. I've seen the Chevy 1500s in there. And it seems like, I'll come by, drop in for a visit or whatever, and you guys have some new product. And there's actually a couple things I want to talk about. One is your own branded shock line. That is not just a white label. I think there's people out there that think that. They go, oh, they just took somebody's shock. It's actually your design that's been manufactured to your specs.
Correct.
So maybe walk through that a little bit. And the other thing is you guys have done some really cool things with billet arms, and you have had other manufacturers copy you, and then because they might have a bigger following, basically tell their audience that you ripped them off. And you've had this battle with some of these other well-known brands out there, and you're like, well, wait a minute. We came up with this first. This is our design. You're copying us, and they're trying to gaslight people and be like, oh, these guys stole our design. And it's like, no. So maybe those are the kinds of things that, as being a small business owner where
Yeah.
you're kind of protecting your turf, like that's what I want to get into. Let's start with the shocks.
So the shock line, again, when we first started the company, we used Ibach as our private label for, and the same thing, it was they manufactured shocks to our spec. It wasn't an off-the-shelf product. In fact, they never even had the product they were making for us until years later where they realized, oh yeah, the Colorado is a good seller.
Yeah, right.
So we actually were approached by Elka, who's based out of Canada, and we were approached probably 5 years ago about doing shocks. And at the time I wasn't ready.
Yeah.
And their MOQ is quite higher than I was doing with Ibach, and I couldn't afford it, essentially.
Minimum order quantity.
Correct. And so they approached us again last year or 2 years ago. And at that point, like, yeah, we're ready to pull the trigger. Like, let's work on something. And so they are the manufacturing warehouse or manufacturer, I guess you could say. So the way it worked for us is they have their engineers come down. They work with us on shock development here in California. We go out, do all the shock testing, the valving. They have a little warehouse in Joshua Tree. And so we'd meet out there and spend weeks or months tuning shocks over and over again, building shim sacks to our vehicles. So we have a huge input on what we want to have manufactured. There's no off-the-shelf product you can buy from Elka that's the same as ours, and vice versa. So people can call it whatever they want. At the end of the day, I don't really care. People will always say what they want to say. There's always going to be people making fun of us or hating us on whatever the reason is. Most of the cases, it's just simply branding, that people want to buy the big names because it's the big name. And I always love this at shows. Like, why would I buy your product over Fox, King, or Icon? And I always ask back, well, why would you buy a Fox, King, or Icon?
Yeah.
And it's always a blank stare of, like, what is it about that product or that
Is
specific
it good
shop?
marketing? I mean, and there's everybody kind of has their thing.
Yeah.
Some of them are very marketing driven.
Yep.
And sometimes at the same price point, their shocks are kind of, and I'm not going to name the names, but there are manufacturers who at a entry level or mid level price point make a junk shock that has leaky seals and things like that. And there's other people at that same price point who are a lot better. And then there's brands out there who are tier 1 OEs that are known for longevity and they have really good seals on it. And like, that's a good reason. Oh, because they don't have to rebuild it every 10,000 miles because it's not a race shock.
Yeah.
So there's nuance, but most consumers don't know that. Most consumers are chasing whoever the shiniest marketing and T-shirts and hats and things like that. And there's some very good shocks that last 10,000 miles.
Yeah, or even 2,000 miles.
In a street-driven application because they're a race shock. And, there's nuance to the shock game. And so, I'll usually tell people, if you're in that middle ground, entry level, middle, daily driver, there's a list of people that I go see them. And there's a list of people I say, that's a great brand, but it's not the right application or product for what your use case is.
Yeah, absolutely. And not to say, I'm not here to say they're bad products, because
Right.
they're not. That being said, I think a lot of people have misinterpretations of what they actually need or want. And the other thing, too, is people overbuy. Like, they're going to run a Stage 9 Icon kit to hit fire roads in their 4Runner.
Yeah.
I mean, cool. It's a great kit, but
Yeah.
you don't need to be doing that at 20 miles an hour. In a lot of ways, you would have better off with a 2-inch shock. And
Sure.
so that's kind of how that fell into play. And for us, what I really wanted to focus on was the valving and the tuning, that they were vehicle specific and not a canned tune or a generic tune for any kind of like, oh, all mid-size trucks are the same or all full-size trucks.
Yeah.
The reality is like a Tundra and an F-150 have a 3,000 pound difference in the two of them. And so because of that, I don't need to have the same tune on both those trucks when they're completely opposite trucks and drive differently and all that stuff. So we spent a lot of time tuning, and people gave us a hard time because it took a long time releasing the Colorado shocks, which again, I don't know when this is coming out, but they're releasing on the 28th of March finally. After
So
about
they'll
a
be
year
out
and a
by the
half.
time you hear this. And I mean, I think, you being a fan of AEV as a business owner, I think some of the things that you've probably taken away from AEV is they don't strive to be the first to market. They strive to be the best to market.
Yeah, and that's a good way to put it. Is we're not trying to rush and be. I mean, there are times where we do want to be first. We were probably one of the first ones with like spacer kits for the Tacoma, the new Tacoma, the new 4Runner, the new Land Cruiser. But those are easy. That's an engineering job. I mean, we basically figure out lift heights. We figure out how we want to split the lift between the shock. But the thing that we focus on too is there's companies that have a much taller lift than ours. But when I look up on forums and I see people naming these certain companies, it's always associated with this rides terribly, or this kit, it was cool, I love the way it looks, but it rides like crap.
Yeah.
And I never want to see that on any of our products. So like we're more conservative on the lift heights. We're more focused on the performance side of things than we are just solely on lift heights and the biggest, tallest possible. And if that's what you're looking for, we're not that kind of company.
Yeah.
And never will be.
And that's a great place to be, right? Is to know who you are and to know your customer. And it's really easy to tell somebody on the phone, hey, if you want that, 40-inch tire, crazy build kind of stuff, like there are people out there that's just not us. If you want a really good daily driver that's going to optimize your vehicle for, how you use it, we can help you there. And I think sometimes some manufacturers try to be something to everybody and they end up kind of not being anything to anybody.
Yeah. Yeah. In a lot of ways, we take our time. We kind of march by the beat of our own drum. We may not be for everyone, that's fine. But I'm proud of what we make, and I'm proud of the company that I've built, and I'm proud of the name that we have. So, they always say like good companies are enthusiast driven, or that people who actually understand the product they're selling. And that's been first and foremost with all of our staff and our employees, even our partnership with CBI and Prinsu. At the end of the day, we're all enthusiasts. We do this stuff on our own, for fun, on the weekends, or we go camping, or we do all the things that we're building and selling. And who am I to be some pencil pusher dude that has no clue of what it is we're making to sell it to people?
Yeah.
And I see that a lot in the industry, and I see that a lot with these companies that get bought and sold, and holding companies that just want to see bottom dollar.
So we've talked about that. You and I, not on the show, obviously, but we've talked about the VCs that have moved in the space, and some have been really good with, caring for the brands that they acquired, and some have raced to the bottom with legendary brands.
Yeah.
And that was one of the things I asked you after you tied up with CBI and Prinsu. I'm like, how is it? Are they taking care? Are you guys good? And you're like, it's been a great relationship, because it could have gone either way, right? Let's say it wasn't CBI Prinsu. Let's say it was Company X, because it's not like you haven't had other offers or other people kind of sniffing around to see what it would take, because there's a lot of people buying up smaller brands like yours.
Yeah.
And it could have been something where you were, at this point, you're done with it, right? You're like, I don't even want to be at my own company anymore. And that's not how it is. You love what you do, and you've got a great partnership, and that doesn't always work out that way in the automotive industry.
Well, that's what it's truly been. It's been a partnership. Like they're very involved in the growth of the company. They want success. They want to see us making good stuff. I mean, they're all made in the USA, and they're all made in house there. They're very passionate and very proud about the things that they make, and so it's a very similar dynamic on how we view business. And there's always differences of personalities, but those don't get in the way. It's just if anything, it's a benefit. They make me a better person, to be honest.
Well, it's part of the personality of the brand, right? It's kind of like going back to my experience with magazines. Once you started mixing the staffs together, and it wasn't these guys on this magazine and these guys at this magazine, you essentially gentrified them and made them all the same, right? And the personality disappeared. They've allowed you to maintain who you are and what you want Peak to be without trying to make them CBI suspension company.
Right. And that's the benefit too, is that we're all still separate companies.
Yeah.
And so while they're invested and while they're a partner, Peak is still Peak, CBI is still CBI, and Prinsu is still Prinsu. And while we might share very similar cultures, we don't try to bleed that into any other brand. We want all of our brand identities to be unique to the brand, which is cool, because as far as the marketing is concerned, we all see eye to eye, and we all know the goal we have. We want to know where we want to get. the challenge like we just talked about before this is navigating this puzzle of social media and the algorithms and trying to stay ahead of that stuff and who you're supposed to pay or grease to get in front of people. And,
All that.
it sucks, but the organic growth we've seen has been good. And since we've introduced our name in other platforms, because one of my biggest things was like getting into Toyota, for example.
Yeah.
I felt that with 2nd gen, 3rd gen Tacoma, 5th gen, 4th gen, 3rd gen 4Runners, they've all had this long period of time to establish the brands they want to buy, the brands they want to support, the normal staple builds. And while that very well might be the case for that stuff, the new trucks have been the
It's the Wild
opposite.
West
right
now. And because Toyota elevated their game on a lot of quote-unquote aftermarket product that you can get on the higher trims, it may not be as good necessarily as what you could get in the aftermarket, but for a buyer saying, oh, I've got this ARB bumper, even though it might be thinner than what the actual aftermarket version would be or something, little things, like that. But the fact is they've got, pretty good suspension on mid grades and up, and they've got, aftermarket like light bars and stuff on some of those higher. They've got Molly panels and sail panels and bumpers, and all of a sudden people don't know yet which way to go because they're kind of like, oh, maybe I would have done the bumpers and the lights, but the factory stuff works for now for my warranty period.
Right.
Let me go somewhere else to make the upgrades, and I'll circle back on that if these don't work out for me.
Right. One of the benefits that we've seen too is Toyota in of itself is very in tune with the aftermarket. They're very welcoming of people building and modifying the trucks. They're working on their aftermarket accessory program, which we're going to be a part of. So you can buy peak stuff directly from the dealership and finance into your vehicle in the next, hopefully the next 6 months or so.
That's breaking news right there. That's a pretty big deal.
It's not quite done, and it's probably away from being done, but it's the process. It's a long process.
Yeah.
But the other cool thing is we have dealerships buying it constantly. We have dealerships installing it. The biggest thing that I've noticed is that the 4th gen Tacoma buyers, the 6th gen 4Runner buyers, all the new Toyota stuff isn't just carryover from previous years. They're all new buyers with no bad buying habits or brand affiliation.
They almost don't come with any biases because they're curious to see like what's out there for these trucks.
And we've done really well in the Toyota market now. And it's funny because I've waited this long to get into it, and we've probably surpassed Chevy sales in 3 months, which is insane.
Which, considering that was your bread and butter. And by the way, if you look at the sales, the Chevy, I think, is number 2 behind the Toyota. So it's not like there's a big disparity in sales. So that's a pretty big deal to see a new platform like that take over.
Well, there's been a lot of trickle down too. So like guys that are posting in some of these like larger Toyota groups that encompass all the gens, now we're seeing bleed over and carry over into the 2nd gen, 3rd gen Toyota market or Tacoma markets, 5th gen 4Runner. So like our shock program is doing really well in that. Our ARM program is doing well, so it's been cool. And then obviously Silverado, that's the biggest thing for us right now, and it's the craziest thing to think about because you'd think that'd be the smallest market, but it is massive.
What's funny is I feel like the Silverado is that 1st gen ZR2 guy growing up and having a good experience with what you have, and then the T1 platform, which is the current platform, which replaced the last one was called the K2 and the GMT 900 before that, but the T1 platform is a lot more flexible for aftermarket upgrades because they built in their lift kits from the factory for Trail Boss and some of those. So that platform's pretty flexible, and you don't have the same issues that you would have had with the earlier trucks in modifying them and getting your steering and geometry and all that because it was kind of built in.
Right.
So if you got a non-lifted, non-Trail Boss and you want to take that and do a 2-3 inch lift, it's pretty easy to do, and the platform's very welcoming for that.
Yep. The cool thing is Trail Boss and ZR2 are very much carryover. Everything below it, our shocks are a little bit shorter for those trucks, but it's been cool. I mean, the market is massive, and I think I told you last time, I don't know if I told you, but the Australian market is humongous for Silverado ZR2.
Awesome.
It was like the number 1 imported truck in the country, and so we have a few Australian distributors there that were just... It's insane, and I never would have thought that
you're selling pallets or a container full of shocks to Australia.
It's weird. Well, the whole thing was weird because I kept getting emails about this kit in Australia. I'm like, why the heck am I getting emails from Australians?
So you must have had a distributor that picked it up without really telling you guys.
We had somebody buy it who sent it to a freight forwarder, and they got it on in country in Australia.
Okay.
They put it on. And they were a journalist. And they wrote about it.
Okay,
and so it exploded.
You know what's funny
Australia.
is you get that one little special hit that you weren't expecting, and it can change your entire business.
Oh, it probably quadrupled our Silverado sales overnight.
Wow.
It was insane. I'm like, why is this happening?
Yeah.
And then They just started importing.
Is that guy on your Christmas ham list?
Yeah, basically. We sent him quite a bit of stuff. So we have 2 distributors in Australia, and then now they introduced the LC250 and the GX550 in Australia. So now we're selling a bunch of that stuff in Australia.
Well, and the nice thing is our platforms are the same over here, and so basically that stuff's all carryover. So it's kind of a no-brainer.
Yeah, one of the coolest, probably the coolest thing is one of our distributors is the primary importer and conversion company for Australia. So when we send our kits over there, they convert everything to right-hand drive and make them street legal in Australia, including our kits, which I guess for road use in Australia, you have to have it certified.
Yeah.
And so all of our stuff gets certified.
Yeah, and they have lift limits and things like that.
Which all our stuff's only 2.25 anyhow, but it's lift limits and also tire width. Like you can't have it past the fenders without flares to cover it or mud flaps or whatever the case might be.
You know what our 3rd highest downloaded country is for the podcast?
Australia. Heck yeah. See, there's smart people over there.
I know. I and everybody knows I have this unnatural fascination with Australians. I think they're awesome. They're my favorite people. Love drinking with them, and they're just they're the best. So we got a lot of listeners down there, and it's always awesome to when they check in. And so when I have somebody on the show who's like, I do business down there, I'm like, oh, what's up? I got my Australians on listening right now. So
well, it's actually kind of funny because I used to really love the Australian V8 Supercar series back in the day, and one of my favorite drivers was kind of like the Robbie Gordon of Australia. Like he was just aggressive. He took crazy risks and crashed all the time, but it's either crash or he won. So when we got with one of these distributors, they wanted to have a Zoom meeting, and I'm like, oh gosh, okay. I had to wait till like 7 o'clock at night because of the time difference, and so I was all nervous. And then when we get on the Zoom call, it just happened to be my favorite V8 Supercar Series driver, who was the guy running this company. And the first thing was, "How the F are you, mate?" And I'm like, "All right, cool."
Let's be honest, you had a poster of him on your bedroom door.
I should have. It would have been even better. We're wearing like his face on a T-shirt.
Well, we had EGR USA. They're out in Ontario. They've sponsored the podcast for a long time, and it's family owned. And one of the family members is James Horwell, who was a rugby player, like a big-time rugby player in Australia. And it's funny, we've got pictures with him when we did their SEMA booth and did our shows there and stuff. And he's like 2 of me tall. Like he's giant, but nicest guy ever. And, having done stuff with EGR, for the past, whatever, year and a half or whatever, they've been great. And they make a great product, and I love having that connection to the Aussies, and so it was fun to have those partnerships and things like that. Now they never invited me to Australia because I probably got to know me, and they went, "Oh, yeah, you can stay over in the U.S." Mate.
I haven't been either, so I was just thinking it'd be a good business trip for the both of us to go down there.
We should figure it out. I've had there's like a journalist down there, Ben. There's a couple other people where they've done trips with international journalists where they've done overlanding across it, and the 2 times that I had the opportunity to do that got taken by somebody else. When I was at the magazine, so I didn't get to go. I've been to Sydney before, and I'll tell you this, and I've told this story, and people are probably tired of hearing it, but I don't care. So I go to Sydney, and I get off the airport. I'm thinking, I can't see, I can't wait to see what they eat here, and it's Subway, KFC, McDonald's, and I think Hungry Jack's, which is Burger King. And I'm like, what the hell? It's all the same stuff at home. And I go walking around, Sydney Harbor, and everybody's wearing Lakers and Dodger hats or watching Laker games or it's like the gas lamp in San Diego. Like it's like our American culture is totally proliferated over there. And I'm like, damn it. You guys are too much like us. I want it different. And then the other thing is I always thought the toilet swirled backwards because that's what we were told as kids.
Yeah.
And they all go straight down. So I spent probably hours flushing every toilet in Australia that I could find, and everyone went straight down. And I'm like, damn it, it's supposed to go the other way.
That's funny. I never thought about that.
That's just, this is how my brain works. That's why I've got problems.
Yeah, well, that's why.
Well, I mean, that's not the only reason. So let's go into kind of the protection of your brand and your IP, and how social has really affected how somebody can put negative things out about your company, and then people put on their team jerseys and start taking sides without it ever really even understanding what caused it. I mean, you've had that happen to you guys a couple times, and you've been really proud of, for example, your billet A-arms and some of the design features that you built into that, and having somebody else claim that it was their design when it was yours and that you were ripping them off. I mean, I know how upset you were about that, and I was too for you.
It did bother me at first, and it bothered me that it was even happening because it's a complete waste of everybody's time. I didn't need to spend my entire day having to defend ourselves over something so stupid. The funniest thing was that if anyone knows anything about the Colorado ZR2 platform is how weird the arms are already. And there's only one way to make the knuckle or the joint on the A-arm. It's like there's only one way it's going to work, and that's the only way it's going to work. The funny thing is we've had tubular arms for a long time, much longer than said company had these billet A-arms. So the reality was we didn't make a billet arm for the longest time because the truth be told is we couldn't afford it, because there is a lot of investment in buying this material and producing these arms. You can't just make 2, you got to make 50 sets of them. So it took a while to get there. When we got there, I'm like, cool, we have this cool design set up. It's got our internal adjusters. So it was never intended to be like this dividing line or to like make something that would infringe on somebody else's design, because an A-arm is an A-arm and a billet arm is a billet arm. We just happened to make one for an underserved platform, and so did this other company. So I guess he just wanted to start a fight that day, which sucks because like I really respected them as a company and the things that they do and the products they make. And you know, I've heard their guys' reputation.
And they're another SoCal small shop too.
Right.
I mean, they're not unlike you guys in that way, right? It's not a major corporation. It's a dude who has a shop that he built a popular product and made a successful little business out of. And why's he got to go after another guy doing the same thing?
I don't know. It sucks because, like I said, I have a lot of respect and admiration for them, what they do, and I don't now.
Yeah,
but,
of course.
You know, it thankfully, with the way the internet works today and the way people's attention spans works, it lasted about 3 days then everyone forgot about it.
Yeah.
Now
I didn't forget about it. I'm still mad for you.
Everyone's gonna look up it now.
Yeah.
But it didn't really hurt anything. I'm sure it didn't hurt them either, sales wise. But like, we don't make anything to piss anybody off. I mean, we have the entire platform of Colorado ZR2 parts we have made, and billet was the obvious next step.
Sure.
Which we then immediately did Silverado. We did Bronco. We're working on 3rd gen ZR2 now. We're working on, which should be done in about 3 or 4 weeks, 3rd gen Tundra, a bunch of stuff. You know, we have our own in-house engineer that can make this stuff that we don't have to copy other people's things. I mean, like I said before, an A-arm is an A-arm. You can mill it differently. You can make certain things differently, but overall the geometry has to be relatively the same.
Yeah, really the difference is the weight, the size, the material, whatever the ball joint or uniball or sealed ball, whatever the cup is that you design and use into it, how much angle you have. Those are the real differences, but everything has to be, it still has to bolt to the frame.
Correct.
And it still has to interface with the knuckle at the same place that you need it to in order to work.
You have a small threshold of variance on that, but then we build some of the caster indoor arms so that way we have better tire clearance. But like, generally speaking, it's within 4 degrees of that. That's how much you have to mess with it. So, have
you done anything with the Grenadier so that you can add any degrees to the front of that thing?
No, I don't think it's even on the list, to be honest. But we've been asked. We've been asked for a lot of obscure things. But
so basically, yeah, it comes down to material and your cup, and then you're building caster into it for steering, just things like that. So you can't go crazy. It's not like you have some wild geometry like on those new Can-Ams or something where you've got the control arm over the tire or some weird thing like that, right?
That is kind of cool, but it definitely limits your tire size.
Yeah.
And in the truck world, tire size is everything because every inch counts.
That's,
Yep.
That's what she said.
Haven't done that in a long time. For a good reason, because my previous partner, he basically wouldn't stop.
That's what she said.
That's what she said.
And then I was like, dude, you can't always do every one of those.
That's what she said.
One of my favorite things, though, and we miss lightning, but...
Oh, my God, lightning. Shut the F up. Shut up, lightning. Shut up. Lightning, shut up.
You know what? I had him here, and I've got so much like raw audio from him. I just need to do like lightning drops because... He did this whole thing on me and made a song about it, and I need to do something like that for me because...
Yeah, like the greatest hits or something.
Yeah, because, like, listen, he would edit, right? And it's hard. It's super hard. And, when I'm coaching girls softball and they're out of their element, I'm like, get out the wiggles, right? Like, shake them out, right? And it's like reset. And for me, I usually clear my throat or I go, blah, 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 right? And it's just like, it's how I have to, like, reset. So he did this. Yeah. Me, one more time.
Was that you?
I can't even say right now. Yeah, that was me. All of that was me. Awesome. So it's not fair because everybody thinks, man, Holman's a disaster. Well, he's just equally as bad. So now I got to make something like that with his stuff, and I got to go through, you know, all the things that were on the cutting room floor and see what I can do with it because he's not good. We're both bad. And now that I edit the show by myself, it's even worse because I'm like, oh man, it's hard to listen to yourself. Yeah, totally. So
reminds me of Anchorman in the beginning. Lanolin?
Oh my god,
Lanolin?
That is such a good movie. I always think of like the Anchorman in the park, right? Usually when there's like two factions, like you guys can go in the park like Anchorman with chains and stuff. What a great movie. All right, I love your company, Peak Suspension. If people want to go there, is it peaksuspension.com?
Yep.
And Instagram and all those Peak Suspension.
All the peaks.
All the peaks. Love it. Go buy their stuff. It's great. I've driven on it. It's amazing. Nick's a good friend of mine. Support him. So it's always nice to have friends stop in the pod shed and do a little episode with us, but stay tuned because there's a little bit of fun at the end of the show. Not everybody's going to appreciate our antics, so we'll put it at the very end. That way, if you don't want to listen to it, you don't have to, but those of you who really love everything about the show, you get a little bonus at the end. So next up, let's do a little truck review on the brand new 2025 Ram HD.
Truck review, yeah, rolling coal and dragging truck nuts.
So I recently headed out to Laughlin, Nevada, where I got behind the wheel of the brand new 2500 Ram HD heavy-duty trucks. And I was in a 2500 single rear wheel gasser all the way up to a 3500 6.7-liter Cummins, four-wheel drive, the whole works. And had a chance to drive all the vehicles with trailers attached. So hopefully you'll enjoy riding along with me as I talk you through my thoughts on the new Ram heavy-duty trucks. Well, what's up, everybody? As you might be able to hear, I am in a truck. And this particular truck is a 2025 Ram 2500 Tradesman. I'm out in Laughlin at the Media Drive, and I've got about an 8,500-pound trailer in tow, and I'm doing the Davis Dam Loop. And as I'm driving this truck, I always have felt that Ram's done a great job with the base models, the base trims, giving you just the tech you need, make that available, but nothing you don't, right? And just giving you a solid truck. So this Tradesman, I don't have the Monroney on this because I just picked it up, but I'll try and find it. Sometimes they have it squirreled away somewhere. Just a white work truck. It's a crew cab, short box. It's an 8,500-pound trailer, Hemi 6.4. Probably hear it. I'm doing 68 miles an hour. Speed limit 65, so it's pulling the grade, no problem at all. Super smooth shifting 8-speed. And I don't know if you can hear on the microphone, but man, is this thing quiet. I mean, you can hear the engine, which sounds great, by the way. And I drove this through town, stop and go. I'm pulling the grade now. Doesn't even care that the trailer's behind it. And it just goes to show, like, what a great engine the 6.4 is. I mean, it's been around for a long time, but it just gets the job done. It's always been a little bit higher, RPM band for power, so it's, willing to rev a little bit higher than some of the other engines out there, but I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing. Plenty of power, pulling up the grade. The one thing I'll say is this truck in particular, I'll try and find the price on it because black interior, charcoal, I guess, but this has the 12-inch screen in it. This has front and rear sensors, integrated trailer brake controller. This has the nice driver information center that still has the mechanical gauges, which I actually prefer to the all-screen one, just because This is way more configurable, at least from the ones I played with so far. Big tow mirrors. This also has the power lower convex tow mirrors also, which is super nice. But I'm looking around this truck, and the stereo's fine. It's got Sirius XM. The seats are super plush and comfortable. It rides great, especially the trailer on the back. This has got the coils. And as I'm driving this, the only thing that keeps coming back to my mind over and over again is, if this was your company work truck, you would be stoked. And I know we don't really get to drive the base models that much, and the manufacturers always put us in the high zoot stuff, which we're going to get into tomorrow, or in your case later in the show. But the fact that they made a tradesman gas available with a really nice, option sheet on it. The other thing is, this doesn't have the passenger screen, obviously, right, because it's the base model, but it has this massive cubby where that passenger screen would go. And by the way, at 65, I'm easily doing 70, spinning 4,500 RPM, but it doesn't feel or sound stressed. It's just doing what it does, in case you're curious. It's got plenty of USBs, inverter, power windows, door locks. This one even has adaptive cruise control. And, okay, so now I'm cresting at the top of the grade here, and just listen for a minute how quiet this truck is at 65 miles an hour. And I should point out that there's a storm passing through right now. It's not raining right now, but there is a lot of outside wind, and I can barely hear it. So there you have it. This is the 2025 Ram Tradesman. Not a lot of changes on the gassers. Definitely not as many changes as on this vehicle as there are on the diesels, which we'll get into the diesels coming up. That's obviously got the upgraded Cummins 6.7. But I got to tell you, I haven't driven one of these in a while, and I'm really impressed. Really impressed. Like I said, if this was your work truck, if your company said, hey Bob, for the next 100,000 miles, this is your ride, you would be totally fine with it. And it's probably nicer than most people's cars. It's just, I know trucks are expensive, but I feel like Ram's done a good job of, even though it's expensive, trying to make it, feel like you're getting a lot of stuff for your money on this lower trim. So, anyway, Tradesman, if you're looking for a heavy-duty truck, this one's going to be hard to beat. All right, time to flip around, go do the rest of the loop, and then I think the next thing you'll hear me in is in one of the diesel trucks. What's going on? I'm back in another truck. This time, I'm in the new 6.7 Cummins, which we've talked about extensively on the show, all the updates. And I'm towing, I want to say probably 12-ish, something like that. This trailer is a car hauler, and it has a Ram SRT 10 regular cab on the back. And if you guys remember, I have a special affinity for that truck because the chief engineer once took me around the Chelsea Proving Grounds at 141 miles an hour in that truck, and they were super, super special. So anyway, a few things about the new engine, and really went back to glow plugs, things like that, right? We've talked about that kind of stuff. The real story is in the new ZF 8-speed transmission. So if you remember, the top dog before was the Eisen 6-speed, and you needed that. And that only came in the high output version. Now there's only one output, and the thing